Alright people, let's do another round of the cyber kill chain. Today we are going to take a look at the fifth step, and that is installation. So, as usual, let's create a nice little cover page here. There we go, installation. Then we will quickly we remove that stuff right here. We will do a black color here again, and here we will start writing something. Today we have the 21st, so I'm recording the second video of today. Let me grab the installation picture of the Lockheed Martin website real quick, and then we will just see what we can do with it. There we go, so we take a look at installation today. And as a preparation to that video, I just thought, okay, what is different between the last step? So exploitation, if something is executed, we already watched a SIM solution or XDR solutions, and we just looked at, okay, how you can detect that stuff. And if we now compare that with installation, so even though it is a different step, what I conclude with the understanding I have is that it's not much different, but we will still emphasize on certain aspects. Okay, so first of all, we need to see examples for installation. Then we will take a look at some sources, or I think the examples are the source itself. Take a look at countermeasures. And then, since this is a topic that I think is perfectly suited for a SIM or an EDR solution, we will take a look again at SIM and EDR, and just see what specifically to look out for. And since we now learned about the MITRE attack, we will take a look at MITRE attack. We will often do that now because this framework is so valuable, and it has some installation steps there. I'm sure I didn't look them up before the video, but we will try to find some of those. Alright, that's the plan for today. I expect this to be a pretty short video. We will not need an hour for this, I would say. Okay, let's get started then. So what do we want first? So first, let's create this white page here like this, and then we need one of those bubbles. This is let me change that ISO real quick, because that's not MITRE. ISO, and then we will take this bubble right there, and we will call it examples. And with examples, I simply mean we look at websites. I found some websites before this video to not let you people wait unnecessarily. So the first site I figured out is this one. It's called Fortra, and Fortra is also a solution provider. Again, no advertisement, but they provide solutions for security, some sort of solutions, and they have a TLDR summary for installation. And that's pretty nice. Let's get a source now here as usual. There we go, there's a source. And it's okay to have it in this corner this time, so we're not fancy. We can have all kinds of visual representations. There we go, so this is the one source that we'll be looking at. I make this a little bit smaller, and I dump the source right there. And now let's read it. So they give us a little bit of an idea how the installation is supposed to be dealt with. Well, my understanding is too that XDR, antivirus, and SIMs, this is the way to go. This is what came to my mind first. But what else do they say? So let's grab ourselves a yellow marker here and work through this. Okay, this is in the foreground. Nice. Okay, let's see. So, in the installation stage, attackers embed malware into a victim system to maintain long-term access. Okay, let's mark long-term access. This is again, so there's you can agree with that, but you can point out that long-term access is only one of many objectives that the attacker might have. Okay, if we speak about or if we think about long-term access, this means advanced persistent threat. Okay, so let's write that down. Long-term access means APT. APT and APT means advanced persistent threat, and they exist. Okay, long-term access. I need to write this in these quote unquote. That's what we need to know. But be aware, it's not always long-term access. Attackers might be very short-termed. Encrypt stuff, grab the money, get out, and that's it. APTs, they live for years in your network. You never encounter them. They are silent, they don't make noise, they just sit there. Happens too, but APTs are very difficult to catch. Just be aware of that. Okay. Then, they often use stealthy methods like fileless malware. Yes, what if it's fileless malware? Well, in the computer science class, I used to learn a concept that's called return-oriented programming. And we are not digging into this. It's called ROP, return-oriented programming. What does that mean? It's a difficult concept, but the logic is you use the code that already exists on a system and is openly available, and you build the code at runtime in such a way that it becomes malicious. But you don't install anything new. You just use what is there. So, also, another word for that is called living of the land. Is another living is a typo. So living of the land is also the word for that. Some people call it. Some guy told me, "Do you know Lotel?" I was like, "No, I don't. What the heck is that?" Yeah, living of the land, and I was like, "Of course I know living of the land, but I never heard of Lotel." Okay, but still, I want you to know that some people use these short forms. Be aware of that. But these are the two things. What they mean here: fileless malware. If you live off the land, you don't need files. They already live in memory. They are installed already. There is no suspicion going on if you just use what is already there. It's there already. It's not suspicious. That's what people do. That is a very very complicated way to do malware, but people do it. It is also related to buffer overflows, by the way. Return-oriented programming is very close to that. Back at university days, I had one course for that topic, and I can tell you it's complicated. Okay, so we built a little bit of stuff like that on the paper, but it's really I never digged into this. Okay, you get a headache, but people professionals in that field, they can hack systems like that without being detected at all. No malware scanner will detect that. And that's the scary thing. Okay, at least not a signature based one. I gotta correct myself. A behavior based one or some anomalous detection behavior based one. As you can see, baseline behavior tracking, this can be detected. Even return oriented programming can be detected if you track the behavior, and if you look at the sim and just take a look at what order are processes being executed, and then that's where you can figure things out. But yeah, interesting. So they have some pretty good points here. And then there we go. I just living off the land. I mean, believe me or not, I did not read this sentence, and this living off the land came to my mind on my own. But here it is. Maybe I saw it at the side, but okay, so they're really good. So this text here, I like it because it corresponds to my mindset, obviously. But yeah, sometimes it helps to read the full sentence before making some ideas. Living off the land tactics to avoid detection. Yeah, they're good. To catch these threats, Fortra recommends, okay, AI-powered tools that detect behavioral anomalies. So here's again the AI-powered stuff. What does that even mean? Okay, AI is not magic. Tell me, how is AI going to do that? In the end, AI is just mimicking humans. Okay, so tell me how a human is going to do that, and then afterwards you can see how AI is going to accomplish it. It's AI is people treat it like magic these days, and they throw it in wherever they can. I don't buy it. Okay, so we mark that red. Not a fan. Um, Not a fan at all. XDR solutions, obviously, with if XDR they mean EDR, endpoint detection, and NDR, network detection. The X stands for all miscellaneous systems. Okay, Internet of Things, we covered that. Maybe cloud-based stuff. Uh, all machines that can run software can be covered by this XDR solutions. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is one of those EDR solutions. Or you have something from Fortinet, I think, or from Cisco. You have some networking stuff. So there are multiple solutions that are capable to do real-time monitoring, but that's the key here. Doing the real-time monitoring, that's how you detect installation, and that's how you detect exploitation too. Okay, that's the thing. They're very similar in that way. They have different objectives, but the way to detect them is quite similar. Then you have next generation. Again, don't buy this next generation stuff. There is no meaning to it. Next gen, okay? There's absolute no meaning to it. Trust me. They call themselves next gen to sell something, but in the end, it's nothing new. There is no next gen SIM solution. Splunk is still what it is 2015. They developed a little bit, sure. They went to cloud, okay, but it's still I ingest data, you do correlation rules on the data, and you trigger alarms or alerts they called, and then you do a triage in your security operations center based on these alerts. It's still what it was 10 years ago. Um, the data variety has increased. You have more data sources than ever before. That's something to be expected. Okay, every new developed application must be connected to a SIM solution. So yes, the variety is higher than it has been 10 years ago. But besides that, not much changed. The logic of a SIM didn't change for the last. Um, uh, when did it start? 2002, something like that. So yeah, so the beginning of this of this millennium, 2001, 2002, this was like the start of the SIM solutions, like roughly 25 years ago, and it's still what it didn't change much. The logic didn't change. So for that reason, don't be confused by that next generation. The question is, if there is a next generation, there must be a previous generation. Well, there isn't. The solutions are the same. They call themselves next gen these days, but they're pretty similar. Antivirus also is nothing new these days. It's really just, they come and go, they change. Okay, baseline behavior tracking, very good. Very good. So baseline behavior tracking, that's what we do to find anomalies. In order to find an anomaly, you got to know what is normal. This is what they mean by baseline. And let's write this down because you guys might be pretty new to this lingo. For us, the word baseline is a daily thing. We got used to that. But the word baseline, you can simply translate it to uh, something that can be can be seen as normal. Okay, and normal means something that happens every day. Okay, you go to your job, log in at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's normal. You log in at 3 o'clock from China. That's not normal. That's okay. That's what you mean by baseline. And also, if an employee from the human resource department all of a sudden starts accessing files in the internal IT and that are somehow correlated to something that has nothing to do with human resources, be suspicious or be very cautious about this because this is something that is not normal for sure. Okay, if an employee accesses data that is never accessed before and should not access in his role, it's something that you gotta be catching, and this is what we mean here. So what do they write? This else do they write? This phase is all about persistence. So defenders need sharp eyes and smarter tech to break the chain. Yeah, it's a business, salesman lingo, breaking the chain and sharper eyes and okay, whatever. Sharp eyes. This is okay. It's still. I don't want to criticize these people. They did a great job on this TLDR. we are now moving on to our next slide. So here we have another example, but before we do that, we copy the white page here like this, and then we do like that, and let's move on to our next example. So I close this site now, we don't need it. The next one is Sentinel-1, but before I copy that, let me give you something to read. There we go. And I try to make sure today to keep the text brackets a little smaller and to not stress your attention span too much, because this is supposed to be at least a little bit relaxing, not too much of stress or too much of hard work. We don't want to avoid that. Okay, but this is now Sentinel-1, and they also have some ideas about installation. They give you like a couple of lines for each step. So you see there are different methods, there's different approaches, so you can cover the kill chain like we do with multiple hour sessions per step. You can cover it with a couple of sentences. This is the way this is all according to your taste. But what I can tell you in regards of cybersecurity in general, these 4 lines of text are not going to educate you enough on the topic to be confidently facing our opponents here. Okay, so to spend a little more time, and you have come to the right place to spend more time, I think. Okay, let's read. The installation phase involves attempting to install malware and other ransomware variants on the target networks. That's totally fine. They say networks. Be aware, it's not networks. If we talk about networks, it's firewall, it's networks. You gotta say at the target information systems. Okay, it's more than just networking. It's the endpoints, it's the entire infrastructure, and network is just part of that. I understand what they mean here, obviously, but sometimes it helps, and that's why I pointed out. Use a language that is simple, but be precise at what you say. So if you say network, people think about firewalls, they think about all IP packets, they think about switches and routers and stuff like that. If you talk about networks, nobody will get endpoints to their mind, servers, clients, printers, coffee machines with an IP address. These are not part of networks. They are part of the network, but they are not the network itself. So that's the thing. That's what I mean by precise language. So here they could have said, install variants of ransomware within the target infrastructure. This would be correct. It's not wrong what they say here, obviously, because if you are looking at this with a little bit of a common sense, you understand what they mean. There's no reason to get worried about a word like that. But this is a good example where I wish there was more precision, and you guys can adopt that and be more precise in that case. Then, the attackers will try to take control over your systems and exfiltrate sensitive data. Alright, so here, exfiltrate sensitive data. That's only one possible goal to achieve. You can destroy data, you can encrypt data, you can manipulate data. Imagine a bank and you have a bank account. You don't want to exfiltrate anything. You just want to increase the number on a certain bank account without being noticed. Or you want to look at a bank order where money is transmitted from one account to another, and you want to manipulate that. So you want to reroute the money to another account. And after that, the money is gone, right? This is the stuff that you can have. Exfiltrating sensitive data is one possible way to do it. Imagine a company like Coca-Cola. They have this beverage, and the recipe for the beverage is secret. Okay, that's stuff you want to exfiltrate, but you should also be aware that companies like Coca-Cola, they don't have their recipe in a digital form. That's at least what I never worked for them, so I can talk openly about companies I've never done consultation with, but that's what I read from the newspapers, that's when I talk with other people. So companies like that, in order to protect their secret, they don't even have the recipe anywhere on the server. It is a piece of paper in a safe, and it is being shared with very few people who need to know the full recipe, and that's it. So this is how you really save yourself from from data exfiltration, do not have it in a digital form. If it's really, really valuable, print it out multiple times, put it in a physical safe, put a guard in front of the safe, and do that redundant at 2 locations. That's how you do it. Okay, everything what is digital is not safe. You never know who already got that data. There's never a proof that nobody exfiltrated that. Okay, that's the thing. So be cautious. Data exfiltration is very, very difficult to detect. And one thing even more difficult is to proving that the data exfiltration did never happen. There's no way to prove that. Okay, so if the owner of that data says my life depends on the secrecy of this, how sure can I be that it is still secret? As a security professional, you can only raise your shoulders and say, well, there's no way to know. We can only hope. And that's not a good answer, obviously. So if you have good data, I mean very, very sensitive data, put it on a paper and that's it. What else do they write? They may also install other cyber weapons, Trojan horses, backdoors, and command line interfaces. That's absolutely correct. They may do anything, so I cannot argue about that. So they just describe what they can do. Okay, so there's nothing to add to this. Good. Sentinel-1 did a satisfying job here at describing. And now we have another and last source, and then we are through with the examples. And that is Beasley Security. I never heard about them, but the first impression of the website is pretty good. They have a lot of text, and we are not going to read a lot of it. I just want to point out one aspect of it, which talks about countermeasures. There we go. So this is countermeasures. Take your time to read it while I copy as usual the source here so that you can look it up yourself. So Beasley Security Insights, Mastering the Kill Chain, Step 5 Installation. So they have a lot of text as mentioned. Feel free to check it out, but what we are interested in are the countermeasures that they identified. Maybe there is more than a countermeasure, but I just saw SIM that I knew that I'm at the right place. So words, why do they call words? Who is it? Words. Well, they have to figure that out themselves, I guess. Words emphasizes that even for steps like installation, which occur when a threat actor has already penetrated an environment. That's correct, he's already in. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Okay, they hit you with these lame life lessons. An ounce of prevention is worth an... Okay, so I would like to point out that these life lessons, they might have been hip and fancy 50 years ago. Don't hit your colleagues with lessons like that, it's pathetic. Don't hit anybody with lessons like that. So it sounds okay, an ounce of prevention cure, but what do you do with it? You say, yeah, sounds nice, and move on with my life, I guess. You'd never change anything after hearing something like that. It's just a fancy, snobby way of communicating. Don't do that. I don't do it for certain. That's why whenever I read it, I find it funny, and at the same time, I always like to point out that this is a bad sign already. Then so Words is a guy who is knowledgeable about the topic, and he recommends that companies equip themselves to effectively detect threat actor activity by giving themselves the advantage through avenues such as... What is advantage through avenues? Do you know what the heck that means? I'm not a native speaker. Maybe this is like a Shakespeare style of writing, and you native people, maybe you enjoy this writing. I certainly don't, because avenue, isn't that like a street? Advantages through avenues? I think avenue is a street. I'm not googling that, but I know what they want to say. You get advantage by prevention. That's what this says. Then, investing in robust antivirus, SIM, and other security products that are configured specifically for the environment they monitor. That's correct. Okay, the first bullet point, nothing I can say about. It's good. This is why this chapter catch my eye, because of the first bullet here. Then regularly testing security products in place to identify any gaps in network visibility. Yes, network visibility is a really, really good saying here, but again, they say network. It's not about the network. Infrastructure visibility. And since I've seen it now the second time, I'm gonna put it down here, and I'm gonna say, okay, it's not just network. It's not just network, but it's the entire infrastructure of the company. I don't write of the company, you can think that part yourself, but there we go. This is what I just wanted to point out, because whenever some mistake repeats, I feel like they are all reading each other and copying each other. That's how this network wording is being copied so much. But at some point it has to stop. Okay, there must be at least one guy who's seeing that and saying, guys, that's not the way to do it. Call it infrastructure. Gaining an in-depth understanding of baseline activity. Okay, again, baseline activity. So obviously this words guy has read very carefully the TLDR summary from Quadra. That's what I feel like. Maybe he didn't, but it reads like the same stuff, just in a more fancy language. In-depth understanding and so on, including what normal baseline behavior looks like. I like that. They say baseline and this word normal. That's what I did too, right? So I translated baseline to something normal. That's good. You should do it. Don't just throw around wordings like baselining, assuming that the world knows what you mean. I learned the word baselining just some years ago. In my first 2 years of a cybersecurity employee, I was not familiar with the word baseline. I was always struggling. I was not, what do they mean with that? But after a while, you hear it oftentimes, and if you translate it just to what is being normal, you win the game. Then you're not confused anymore. What do we have? Keeping up with cybersecurity news and alerts released by government agencies like United States Computer Emergency Readiness Team. That's quite a name for a team. US CERT, Computer Emergency Readiness Team, yeah. Sometimes they don't call it readiness, they call it response team as well. So the CERT, they had different names. But yeah, this is what it is. And the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency, CISA. Yeah, CISA, good source by the way. Good source. CISA, I like it a lot. I use it too. And we will be reading some CISA stuff, for sure. We might be reading some US CERT stuff too. I didn't see much from them recently. I was not paying attention actively. Now that I read it here, good mention by the words. Paying special attention to threats specific to the industry the company operates in. Yes, so this is a empty sentence. Industry company operates in. Well, what industry is ransomware targeting? Well, let me tell you, they target everything. Okay, so it's very difficult to find a certain industry that is targeted by an attack. So it sounds fancy, but you never do that. Okay, not too often. Okay, you don't sit down and say, oh, I'm on automotive now. What threats are special for automotive? Well, most threats they are general purpose for everything. That's the thing. Okay, but we went through the beastly security here pretty quick. So let's go back here. We covered examples now. We covered examples. Now take a look at countermeasures. Okay, let's take a look then at countermeasures. And this time I pay attention to rename the bubble. I didn't do it last time. So countermeasures. Okay, so your countermeasure is obviously a SIM solution. So let me put down a SIM solution right there. And I just want to, this is your countermeasure, obviously, okay? And now I want to introduce you to a new source. It's called Ultimate Windows Cybersecurity. Ultimate Windows Security Process Execution. That's Windows Lock Event, the new process. There we go. This looks good. So first of all, this is the website, and I want to add the logo because it is very, very good website. This is how it looks like. There we go. Now we need the source, and this is the good good chance now to introduce you to this valuable website. There's even a face of the dude. There used to be. Oh, did they remove the face of the dude? There used to be a face of the guy. There it is, I think. Because I think we should. Oh, yeah, it appears to be no longer be there. Okay, it's okay. So now let's copy that stuff and see what it is. And description fields, I should do like this, I guess. There we go. Let's take a look. So what is this? There's a website that shows you Windows log events. So your Windows machine operating system has log events, and these events they have IDs. 4688 is one ID of an event. This is what it is, and it has a name. A new process has been created. Okay, this is what we see. This event is being dropped by the system. It's being created by the system. If somebody attempts to install something, installation procedures are certainly processes, but there are more. If you just open up an executable, that's a process. And this is what you see then. This is what you see then here. This is your elastic, and here in this message you will see, aha, process executed. That's what you want. Okay, this is what you want to detect installation in your SIM solution. It can be anything, Splunk, ArcSight, it doesn't matter. And now we take a deeper look at the ultimate Windows cybersecurity. So we will read this in a moment, but I will just copy now the next part, and I think I need to put this on the other side, because what we copy now is a little bit more in depth, I think. Well, it's okay for now. This is what it is. We make it a little bit smaller like this. There we go. So in this case it can stay on that side, I guess. It's fine. Let's read it now. What do we have? So event 4688 documents each program that is executed, who the program ran as. So every program executed needs a user who executes it. Administrator, system accounts, or regular user, they all have an origin. You know who's responsible for. That has started this process. That's what it says. When you start a program, you are creating a process that stays open until the program exits. This process is identified by the process ID. Yes, and they have double point, but this is 4688. You can correlate this event to other events by process ID to determine what the program did while it ran when it exited. And exit event is 4689. Okay, let's look this up. Let's look it up. 4689 for just to look. Yes, so this is exited. So we need to put this down here as well. So this is how it looks, and this is one way to spend parts of your job. So this is what we did in the back in the day. We did it a whole lot. Analyzing these events. So here this is 4689. A process has exited. So what you can do is, in the SIM solution, you can track the beginning of a process, so it is being opened, and you can also track the end of a process when it is being closed. So for example, if I press the X button here, my Windows operating system will create such a 4689 process, and then you can take a look how it looks like. I will not do that on my system because this is my system. I don't want to show you unnecessarily events that might expose me in any way. I don't know. This process, Windows event log, is very extensive. It has a lot of details, but you can certainly do that in a SIM. Why is it so valuable? Installation can be detected like that. It's that simple. It can be detected, and not all users are supposed to execute strange processes for installation. Only administrators have the right to install something. So in order for the attacker to do this installation here, installation of malware, the first step is for sure to hijack a high privileged account. He needs to have the right to install something. This will be an administrator. But this administrator is monitored by the SIM. each step that he does is monitored by the SIM. As a result of that, if a certain administrator account starts installing a software, you can see that in your SOC and you can ask yourself, should this administrator do that right now? Okay, and this is the anomaly. Then you look what kind of software is it, you analyze it a little bit deeper, and then you have it. In some companies, you have agreements with administrators to only do installation in a very small time window of the day. You tell them, okay, guy, if you want to install something, do it after lunch between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. That's your installation window every day. Before that, you can do planning, meetings, you can do whatever. But if you want to install something new on a system with an administrative account, it's that window. Well, guess what? The attacker, your adversary, doesn't know these agreements because they are not written in the system. Those are agreements. You don't know them as a hacker. You hijack the account. You have no clue about the agreement. You start the installation outside of the agreed installation window. And there you go. That's your anomaly. The baseline, let's jump back. I see that I find that pretty interesting. Maybe you catch by my voice, but certain topic they catch my attention. So the fire is burning a little bit right now. So I find that tremendously interesting. It's fascinating to me. But baseline then, if you agree with the administrator when to install stuff and when to not do it, that's your baseline. The baseline is 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Anything else is not normal. Anything else will be seen by the SOC, and that's your opponent. That's the cyber criminal you catch like that. Well, guess what? Most companies I advise this, they're too how do you call it? They're too convenient, too lazy to follow that advice. They say, oh, I can't tell my administrator to have only 1 hour per day of installation window. Well, trust me, they can. You just need motivation, and you just need to have enough people telling them that it's important. I've seen enough people who are like, yeah, let's not go too deep into that subject, but let's keep it at that. People are oftentimes a little bit lazy, unfortunately. That's what it is, and that's why they compromise security. Your administrator doesn't want to be told when to do his job. That's the thing. So he wants to do whenever he wants, work whenever he wants. Okay, but this is 4688, and now I want to scroll down a little bit. So we have read this. Feel free to read this, stop the video, read through it. So when this process is exited, that's the 4689. But we're interested in the 4688, so we jump back to 4688, and I scroll down a little bit here, and we will be reading a little bit more about that. What can we see? So here, for example, you have the fields. That's quite interesting. I think I had the fields here. Wait, I think there was no reason. Yeah, here's the fields. I deleted that by accident. Let's read the fields now. So, create a subject, the user and logon session that started the program. So that's the malicious account, the hijacked account. That's your administrator. That's the opponent. That's the cyber criminal. The account name, account domain, logon ID. Then target subject. So this has been added. It says in Windows 2016. So security ID, the SID of the account, the account logon name, account domain, logon ID. Okay, this is like the same thing, kind of. Now on the next page, and this is really like the first time you find this as a Security Operations Center's employee, you feel like you found a piece of gold, a diamond mine, because this Randy dude here, he says somewhere, this guy's name is Randy. Here, free log sources by Randy. So the operator of Ultimate IT Security. This is Randy. He did a good job. Okay, so it's not easy to find. It's a hard work to summarize all of the Windows IDs, and that's what the person did. It's a legend. So this site exists for as long as I have been around in cybersecurity, and it's some time now. So this is like the grandfather of Windows logging. It's the only source you need for on that topic, to be precise. And here, so we on the page before we had creators information. So who did the opening of the process, the creation? But now we have here on this side, we have information about the process itself. So process ID, every process on Windows has an identifier. That's good. Then new process name, the full path of the executable. This is always very interesting. So this can be your Mimikatz. If it says Mimikatz here, you know already something is wrong. If it says, I don't know, WannaCry, it doesn't say WannaCry, by the way, it's a little bit more hidden. It gives itself names that appear to be plausible, like Windows host, whatever stuff. Uh, it gives itself a name that might slip by, but you gotta be careful and look deeper into this to find. Then you have some admin authority type 2. We gotta see what type 2 even is, but we will have that in a moment. Token elevation type about user account control. Type 1 is full token with no privileges. Type 2 is an elevated token. Type 3 is normal value. So type 2 is your administrative token as it looks like. That's the stuff you want to be looking out. Mandatory label, new to Windows 10. Destroy access controllers, permission on a file, Windows also for mandatory. So that's stuff that maybe not too interesting, but still. And now I want to give you another view on. We make this smaller to not bloat things up unnecessarily. And now there is this table here. That's a very good table. I guess you know what, we do it on we don't we have space. We have space. Why am I trying to save space in a setup where space is endless? So do it like this. There we go. So we put it down like this. So here you have a table with SIDs. Whatever RID might be register, some RAM, it might be it's a memory for sure, because it's a 0x. When you see something like that, it's in memory something. RID label, untrusted, low, medium, high, system, protected process, and here it says what it is. And then create a process ID, identifies the process that started this process. That's beautiful. So sometimes one process starts another, and that way you can hide your malicious activity by having like a normal process that is not suspicious at all, but starting a new one. An example here is when your Excel process is starting some executables, which it should never do. So the creator would be your Excel or some other Microsoft product, and the child process then is the Mimikatz, and immediately you know something is wrong here. Create a process name, yes. Process command line, that's cool, so you can see what they typed in into the command line to open that executable. That's also interesting. And I try to understand now what this table even means. So meaning untrusted, low integrity, medium, high integrity, system integrity, protected process. So those are just different types of processes. I cannot comprehend fully now. Well, I can actually. So this is yes, yes, yes. So your processes have an ID, and depending on in which SID they run, you can determine how important the process is. That's what it is. And you can have a total of, it looks like, 20,000 processes running on your system, as it looks like. And yes, so we got it now. Obviously, you don't want to be looking out for the untrusted stuff, but the protected, system integrity, high integrity. So these are the processes where the malicious stuff might possibly happen. Okay. Alright, so I think this is what I wanted to show you when it comes to the SIM. Why did we go such in deep into the processes? That's because that's what you want to monitor with your SIM solution or with your EDR solution. They monitor it by themselves. In the SIM, you gotta configure it yourself. You have more freedom. But this is the countermeasure that I wanted to discuss with you. Okay, also SIM, EDR, XDR, we covered that in one go pretty much. And the next step, what we want to do, the last step for today, and just keep in mind, if you learned one thing from this video, you learned about ultimate Windows security, and take a look at that. If you want to catch process executions, if you want to catch installations, that's how you do it. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There are always people who are telling, oh, the SIM is not a solution, it doesn't do it. It does. You can trust a random nobody like me on the internet on this question. Okay, the SIM does, and convince yourself. Okay, don't trust anybody actually, but convince yourself. But now you just heard one more opinion in that direction, and make your own opinion based on based on the sources that I give you and based on the reasons that I provide. Okay, but obviously never trust blindly. I might be totally wrong about what I say, but obviously I'm not. So we have one more page, and now we are going to take a look at Mitre again. Mitre Tech, Mitre Attack, and then let's open it up. Mitre Tech, and what I do now is, well, you don't see much, I know. Let me first copy that kind of stuff, and what we, oh wait, we, here maybe. Well, let's take a look together again. So let's take a look together again. So I will just copy the entire list if I can, or as much as there is, like this. And it should be, with the depth I need to be careful. So like this, it's enough. Yes, well wait, I can go a little more in depth here, as it looks like, which is fine. Let's go a little more like this then. Yeah, that's better, that's much better. So now that gives you the source again. So Mitre is a big deal, so we will be always coming back to it. And my idea now is, so we have been in the installation phase. Well, let's look at some installation stuff here, then if we can read something. So while you look at this, I type in Control F and I will do installation search here. Installation, we have it. Install. No, they don't have the word installation at all, which is interesting. So we look at execution. That's the closest thing. They deploy container. Deploy. Yes, deploying something, it's installing something. ESXi administration command, input injection, inter-process communication. That's interesting. Shared modules, software deployment tools. Yes, user execution. User execution sounds really good. Let's look at this real quick. We just want one good example of what rely on specific actions by user to gain execution. That's it. Yes, that sounds really good. So I give you now the technique, the link to the technique. It's 1204. Very good. And now we will read together that stuff, and this is the last thing for the video. So I think we did not bother the attention span this time too much, which is also a good thing. As I said, it needs to be a low effort experience for you guys. A little nice music in the background, a picture of a cat every now and then. That's what we are aiming for. Casual, not quite. I don't think this is entertainment here. Not as much, but at least we want to give. I want to give you some context. I want to give you something to use at your job. Okay, so the next day you go to your job after watching this video. On the lunch break, go to one of your coworkers if you work in cybersecurity and just discuss with them the importance of Mitre Tech. If you're working with security, just ask them, hey man, what is your opinion on Mitre Tech? How would you assess the impact of it? That's a good open question for a lunch break, and then the guy can tell you a little bit about it. You have an opinion too after watching that, so you're convinced, the same as I'm convinced that Mitre Tech is a big deal, and it's very valuable. But hear opinions of your coworkers too, and be part of that movement to advertise Mitre Attack to people who have not heard it before. It will be juniors, okay? So seniors of today, they heard of Mitre Attack. I will start a video series also parallel to this one. So this is the kill chain playlist, but I will also introduce in a short time unpopular opinion playlist. So this is a little bit of a catchy thing, but I will, in the unpopular opinion, I will be talking about topics that bother me in cybersecurity, and one of the topics that bothers me is the misuse of Mitre Attack. Okay, you hear about it a lot, but only very few people are using it the correct way. They use it like a stamp. Okay, I have a Mitre Attack stamp on my work, so this is like a seal of quality, seal of approval. It's not. Don't use it just as a advertisement to appear professional. No, use it the proper way. And most people who work with Mitra attack, they don't even go as deep as we do here. Looking at this page, carefully reading it, learning something from it. They stay on this level, they do some mappings, but as I said, I will be doing an unpopular opinion series, and I will be pointing out all of this garbage that I observe in my job and that I wish to disappear eventually out of the business. But it doesn't. It is very persistent, so people continue to do that, unfortunately. Okay, let's read, and that's the last. So we have 50 minutes now into the video. We read this, and then we are done under an hour. I think that's a good job. So, user execution. So, as you can see this time, I think it's the first time we have sub-techniques. We might want to dive in one of those sub-techniques. Let me show them to you. Oh, I have a little bit, my nose is running, sorry for that. There we go. So these are the sub-techniques. I just open them up. I put them here. Here. So it's a bit small, but you can see it's malicious link, malicious file, malicious image, copy and paste, malicious library. So the interesting thing would be image, file, I think, link. All of that is interesting, and all of that can be catched by this process execution. All of that. Okay, be aware. That's why we're connecting these dots here. Okay, let's read a little bit, and let's get ourselves one of those yellow markers, because we will be marking. You will be noticing one thing. So I might be criticizing some sources like here, like some Fortras, some what is the other guy, some Sentinel ones, some words. I might be pointing out the defects there. You will very rarely notice me pointing out defects in Mitra attack, and there's a very simple reason for that. This is high quality work. One of the best quality works I've ever seen. They do such a good job, and before we read, let me copy you. I want to make the point here why these people are really, because what I show you is not the entire page. You can scroll down and find a full page of references. And if you look at the references, those are high quality stuff. So we can spend hours and hours just on this page here, because there's so much content to read. We can go through each and every of the sources. Let me show you something more. It's not just done here. You have mitigations. Okay, you have an entire table talking about mitigations for that kind of stuff. And that's why Mitra attack is valuable. Take your time. That's what I've shown you in the past, like this page. It's really just the title page of it. That's not the full thing. I think I forgot to mention that, how deep Mitra attack is going. But look at this. They have an entire mitigation section with IDs, with a description, with the mitigation name. User training here is a typical thing. Execution prevention. So they have a lot of stuff. Behavior protection, endpoint. They have a lot of stuff going on here, and this is why I very likely will not point out any defects here, because likely there are no defects. And here you see as well, the last change was 24th October 2025. Not 1 month ago. They reworked that page. They are constantly reworking this. This is really high quality stuff right there. I can't emphasize enough the value of Mitra attack and how much they provided, the Mitra Corporation, how much value they provided to the cybersecurity society. But the pity is, they provide that stuff to the cyber criminals too. Cyber criminals are reading that stuff the same way we do. The only issue is they are, I feel like, more sophisticated than us. I feel like the cyber defender, the typical one, doesn't even read that stuff here. He copies that number T1204 and is happy that he used Mitra attack. No, let's take our time. Let's read that now. By reading this, you're one of the few. You're already the top 5% of the people who ever read this page. Most people are just flying over it and believing that this is it. All right, enough motivation. Let's get to the topic. An adversary may rely upon specific actions by user in order to gain execution. Users may be subjected to social engineering to get them to execute malicious code. That's good. It's not always a hijacked account. That's really an idea I didn't get, but it might be really the administrator executing the stuff and not a hijacked account. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. Nice. Opening malicious document file, uh, Excel file with some attachments or with some macros. That's the typical stuff. Observe behavior from phishing. Yes, while user execution frequently occurs shortly after initial access, that's correct. It may occur at other phases of an intrusion. Yes, advanced persistent threats might be sitting for years in your network before trying stuff like that. Internal spear phishing, I understand. Adversaries may also deceive users into performing actions such as, oh, this is interesting now, enabling remote access tools. Great. For example, he might start, what is this? I forgot this tool that administrators use to log in. I really forgot the name of it. Huh. I see the logo in front of me. I forgot the names. It's a tool that you can use to access and help somebody. Service desks are using it oftentimes. But yeah, I forgot the name or the name of it. But this is a remote access tool. Running malicious JavaScript on the browser, yes. Downloading, executing malware for execution, yes, if the administrator executes itself. And this is what SIM can catch. This is what SIM can catch, because then you would see he's downloading something, he's starting a process, and here you would see 4688. Here you would see a description of the process, you would see what it does, you would see what type it is, successful execution, and you would see all of that stuff also with the table. So if it's a malware, it will be ending up in the protected processes area probably, or somewhere else, and then you will catch it. That's the thing. Okay, coercing, I don't know that word. Coercing, and I educate myself too. I type it now in is it something like convincing, convincing, forcing, coercing? This is like using force. Um, if you torture somebody and then you give him a laptop and say type in your password and do this, is coercing. It's not convincing. It's like using force. It reminds me of torture. Okay, I don't think coercing. How to pronounce that word? Coercing. Yeah, it's. Oh, here it is. No, no. That's not what I wanted. But okay, so a new word learned. Coercing users to copy, paste, and execute malicious code manually. Yes, yes. That's why, by the way, working in cybersecurity is dangerous. So don't sit at the pub telling everybody you have a job like this, because they might really kidnap you and try to get out something out of you, and then you will telling them, hey guys, I don't have it in my head. It's all saved in my corporate desktop. I don't have anything in my head. Well, how believable is that? You will be tortured and you will be telling something and you will end up in a bed. So if you work in cybersecurity, be as silent as possible about it, especially what companies you work for. So we consultants, we have seen like half of the S&P 500, I feel sometimes. Well, be silent about what companies you have seen. You must be silent anyways, because you're signing these confidential agreements before you get the job. But still, even if you're drunk at the pub, always remember this professional ethic, not to talk about your job as much. Look what I do here. So I'm anonymous. You don't know who I am. It's a random nobody talking, and you will never hear me saying, oh, I worked for this company and we did this and that. No, instead I say, yes, I had an occasion at somewhere, but never disclose, never build a link between the story you tell and the company or people, even names. Don't drop names. Okay, so but this is the word coercing. That reminds me of this torture and terrible things that can happen to our job colleagues. So try to avoid that. Okay, and then for example, tech support scams can be facilitated through phishing. Yes, you can say you're a tech support, and then they might help you. Again, this word phishing. Okay, people. So I was saying phishing is garbage, but reading it here convinces me a little bit more that I might be learning it. Just call it voice phishing, people. Phishing. It's not an email, it's just calling somebody, but okay, it's their thing. I would love Mitra Tech to remove the sentence here and just write voice phishing. We don't want to learn new vocabularies, especially not if they are this meaningless. Can I contact these people and write them this feedback? Because I know Mitra is interested in feedback. I might contact these people and tell them to get rid of this stuff, you know. I might do that. Okay, then toll-free numbers, deliver, execute payloads containing malware. Yeah. So I think this is good enough, you guys. We covered this topic, we read through this, and I just want to point out to you that if you want to detect installation, the key here is a SIM and the endpoint detection and response system. You can have either. The best thing is to have both. Have a Microsoft Sentinel, have a CrowdStrike Falcon, and in addition to that, have a Splunk installation or IBM Curator or XOR or whatever is out there. So there are a lot of stuff going on. Have multiple layers of defense out, and this is installation, I would say. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we see each other then in the next step. So after installation comes command and control. Let me scroll up and show you real quick. So installation is here. Next time we will see command and control. I'm really looking forward to this one because this will be a little bit different to what we had at exploitation installation. Command and control has a little bit a different twist, let's say, a little bit of a different ways how you can detect it. But that's it for now. Have a good time and see you next time then. Goodbye.